Welcome to another journey into the fascinating world around us. Tonight, we explore something so common, so ordinary, that you might walk across it every single day without giving it a second thought. Yet grass, in all its humble greenness, is one of the most remarkable, influential, and essential plant families on our entire planet. From the towering bamboo forests of Asia to the endless prairies of North America, from the rice paddies that feed billions to the carefully manicured lawns of suburbia, grass surrounds us, sustains us, and shapes the very world we inhabit. So settle in, get comfortable, and prepare to discover the hidden wonders of the grass beneath your feet. Let us begin at the very foundation of what makes grass, well, grass. The scientific name for the grass family is Poaceae, though you may also encounter its older name, Gramineae, which was used for many years before botanical nomenclature standards evolved. This massive plant family contains around 12,000 species distributed across approximately 780 genera, making it the fifth largest plant family on Earth, following the Asteraceae or daisy family, the Orchidaceae or orchid family, the Fabaceae or legume family, and the Rubiaceae or coffee family. The exact species count varies slightly depending on which taxonomic authority you consult and how they classify certain specimens, with some sources citing closer to 10,000 species, and others suggesting numbers as high as 13,000. As new species are discovered and taxonomic relationships are clarified, the exact number continues to evolve as scientists discover new species in remote regions and refine their understanding of evolutionary relationships through modern genetic analysis techniques. These thousands of species are organized into approximately 780 genera, which are then grouped into 12 major subfamilies. Each subfamily represents millions of years of evolutionary divergence, adapting to different climates, different soils, different animals, and different environmental pressures across the vast sweep of geological time. Within this incredible diversity, certain characteristics unite all true grasses, distinguishing them from other plant families and marking them as members of this extraordinary botanical group. These shared characteristics include their distinctive hollow stems, punctuated by solid nodes, their parallel-veined leaves with characteristic sheaths that wrap around the stem, their wind-pollinated flowers organized into complex arrangements called spikelets, and their unique growth pattern with meristems located at the base of the plant rather than at the tips. Grasses belong to a larger group of plants called monocotyledons, or monocots for short. This term refers to the fact that grass seeds contain a single embryonic leaf, called a cotyledon, rather than the two cotyledons found in dicotyledonous plants like beans or oak trees. This fundamental difference in seed structure influences everything about how grasses grow, from their root systems to their leaf patterns to their overall architecture. Other familiar monocots include lilies, orchids, palms, and onions. But grasses represent by far the most economically significant group within this classification. The monocot-dicot divide represents one of the most ancient splits in flowering plant evolution, dating back more than 140 million years. And this deep evolutionary separation has resulted in fundamentally different approaches to plant construction and growth. While dicots can produce woody growth through secondary thickening, adding layer upon layer of new wood each year, monocots lack this ability entirely, which is why even the tallest bamboos remain fundamentally different in structure from true trees. The importance of grasses cannot be overstated. They are, quite simply, the most economically significant plant family on Earth. Every major grain crop that feeds humanity, belongs to the grass family. Rice, wheat, corn, barley, oats, rye, sorghum, millet, all grasses. Sugarcane, which provides most of the world's sugar, is a grass. The vast grasslands that support livestock across every continent are, obviously, composed of grasses. Without the grass family, human civilization as we know it would not exist. There would be no bread, no rice bowls, no corn on the cob, no livestock fed on pasture, no sugar for your coffee. The entire structure of human society, from ancient agricultural settlements to modern industrial nations, rests upon a foundation of grass. But grasses do far more than feed us. They shape landscapes, create ecosystems, store carbon, prevent erosion, provide habitat for countless animal species, and influence climate patterns across the globe. They cover approximately 40 to 40.5% of the Earth's land surface, excluding Greenland and Antarctica. Think about that for a moment. Nearly half of all the land on our planet is dominated by grasses. From the Arctic tundra to tropical savannas, from windswept prairies to mountain meadows, grasses have conquered nearly every terrestrial habitat that plants can colonize. What makes grasses so successful? The answer lies in their remarkable adaptations, their incredible flexibility, and their ability to thrive in conditions that would defeat most other plants. Grasses can survive drought, endure fire, withstand grazing by enormous herds of animals, tolerate extreme cold, and regenerate from damage that would kill other plants outright. They are survivors, pioneers, and conquerors, and their success story is written across the face of our planet in shades of green and gold. To truly understand grass, we must examine its structure in detail, because grasses are built unlike most other plants you encounter. Their architecture reflects millions of years of evolutionary refinement, creating a plant that can survive and thrive under conditions that would devastate less specialized species. Let us start beneath the soil with the root system. Grasses possess what botanists call a fibrous root system. Unlike many plants that develop a single thick taproot extending deep into the earth, grasses produce numerous thin, branching roots that spread out in all directions from the base of the plant. These are called adventitious roots because they emerge from the stem rather than developing from the primary root of the seedling. In many grass species, the original radical or embryonic root disappears early in the plant's development, replaced entirely by this web of adventitious roots. The depth and extent of these root systems vary tremendously depending on the species, the environment, and how the grass is managed. Some lawn grasses develop relatively shallow roots, perhaps only a few inches deep, but prairie grasses, adapted to survive drought and fire, send their roots deep into the earth. Switchgrass roots can penetrate 5 to 6 feet down. Big bluestem, one of the dominant grasses of the North American tallgrass prairie, develops roots that extend 8 to 12 feet into the soil. Some estimates suggest that prairie soils can contain more than 10 tons of roots per acre, with most of this mass concentrated in the top 2 feet, but some roots reaching depths of 10 feet or more. These extensive root systems serve multiple purposes. They anchor the plant firmly in place, preventing it from being pulled up by grazing animals or blown away by wind. They absorb water and nutrients from a large volume of soil, allowing grasses to survive in environments where water is scarce or nutrients are limited. They store carbohydrates and other reserves that enable the plant to regrow after being grazed, mowed, or burned. And perhaps most importantly, from an ecological perspective, they hold soil in place, preventing erosion and building soil structure over time. The roots themselves are covered by an outer layer of cells called the epidermis. Beneath this lies the cortex, a region of ground tissue that stores nutrients and facilitates the movement of water and dissolved minerals toward the center of the root. In some grasses, the very center of the root contains a core of ground tissue called the pith, though in others, this central region consists primarily of vascular tissue. Moving above ground, we encounter the grass stem, which botanists call a culm. The culm of a grass plant has a distinctive structure that immediately distinguishes it from the stems of most other plants. Most grass stems are round in cross-section, though some species produce stems that are slightly flattened. Perhaps most characteristically, grass stems are typically hollow between the nodes, those swollen joint-like regions that occur at regular intervals along the stem. These nodes are one of the defining features of grasses. At each node, a leaf attaches to the stem, and these leaves are arranged alternately along the stem in two vertical ranks, creating a distichous pattern. The regions between nodes are called internodes, and it is these internodes that are usually hollow, while the nodes themselves are solid, providing structural strength at these critical junction points. The stems of grasses range from barely visible to absolutely massive. In some species, the stems may only be a couple of inches tall. In others, particularly the bamboos, stems can reach truly astounding dimensions. The smallest bamboos produce culms just a few millimeters in diameter and a few inches tall. The largest bamboo species, Dendrocalamus sinicus, can produce stems up to 37 centimeters in diameter and 46 meters tall. That is over 150 feet, taller than many trees, yet still a grass. Grass stems grow in a fundamentally different way than the stems of trees or most other plants. They elongate primarily through cell division and expansion at the base of each internode, near the node, rather than at the tip of the stem. This growth pattern is called intercalary meristem growth, and it is one of the key adaptations that makes grasses so resilient to grazing and mowing. When the top of a grass plant is removed, the growing points remain intact at the base, protected and ready to continue producing new tissue. The stems of grasses also differ from woody plants in another fundamental way. Grasses, like other monocots, do not produce secondary growth, which is the annual addition of new layers of woody tissue that makes tree trunks grow thicker over time. Instead, bamboo stems emerge from the ground with their final diameter already determined. A bamboo shoot that is 3 inches in diameter when it emerges from the soil will still be 3 inches in diameter when it reaches its full height weeks later. The stem does not grow wider with age, though it does become harder and more lignified as it matures, a process that can take 1 to 4 years, depending on the species and the diameter of the culm. This lack of secondary growth means that grass stems are fundamentally different in their internal structure from the trunks of trees. In a tree, the vascular tissue is arranged in a ring with phloem on the outside and xylem on the inside, separated by a layer of actively dividing cells called the cambium. In grasses, the vascular bundles are scattered throughout the stem, embedded in ground tissue, with no cambial layer producing new wood each year. Some of the structural strength that supports grass stems comes from the leaves themselves, particularly the leaf sheaths. Each grass leaf consists of 2 distinct parts, the sheath and the blade. The sheath is the lower portion of the leaf, and it wraps around the stem like a tube, clasping the culm and providing support. In many grasses, the edges of the sheath overlap but are not fused together, allowing you to peel the sheath away from the stem if you wish. The sheath extends upward, from the node where the leaf attaches, often reaching to or beyond the next node above, providing external reinforcement that helps prevent the stem from bending or breaking. At the point where the sheath transitions into the blade, many grasses possess a small structure called the ligule. The ligule may take different forms depending on the species. It might be a small membrane, a fringe of hairs, or simply a ring of specialized cells. Whatever its form, the ligule serves an important function. It helps prevent water and insects from entering the space between the leaf sheath and the stem, protecting the delicate growing tissues at the base of the plant. The blade is the upper portion of the leaf, the part that extends away from the stem, and that we typically think of as the leaf itself. Grass blades are characteristically long and narrow, though their exact dimensions vary enormously between species. Some grass blades are barely wider than a thread, while others can be several inches across. The length varies even more dramatically, from tiny blades just a fraction of an inch long to blades that extend several feet. The leaves of grasses exhibit another characteristic feature of monocots: parallel venation. If you examine a grass blade closely, you will see numerous veins running lengthwise along the leaf, parallel to each other, never branching or connecting in the netted pattern typical of dicot leaves. This parallel arrangement of veins is supremely efficient for transporting water and nutrients along the length of these elongated leaves. Many grass leaves are hardened with silica, microscopic particles of silicon dioxide embedded in the leaf tissue. This silicification serves as a defense mechanism, making the leaves tough and abrasive, discouraging grazing by many herbivores. Some grasses are so heavily silicified that their leaves can actually cut human skin if you brush against them carelessly. Swordgrass, for instance, earns its name honestly, with leaf edges sharp enough to cause painful cuts. The silica in grass leaves has another important property. When the grass dies and decays, these microscopic silica particles, called phytoliths, are left behind in the soil. Because they are highly resistant to decay, phytoliths can persist in the soil for thousands or even millions of years, providing paleobotanists with valuable evidence of ancient grass presence and diversity. In fact, much of what we know about the early evolution and spread of grasses comes from the study of fossil phytoliths. The story of grass is ancient, far more ancient than most people realize. For many years, scientists believed that grasses were relatively recent arrivals on the evolutionary scene, perhaps appearing around 55 or 60 million years ago during the Paleocene epoch. This seemed to make sense because the fossil record of grass macrofossils, fossils large enough to see without a microscope, didn't extend much further back than that. The oldest undisputed grass macrofossils came from the Paleocene-Eocene boundary, about 56 million years ago, found in the Wilcox Formation in western Tennessee. But over the past 2 decades, a series of remarkable discoveries has completely rewritten our understanding of grass evolution. These discoveries have pushed the origin of grasses back through time, all the way into the age of dinosaurs. The key to these discoveries lies not in macrofossils, but in microfossils, tiny fragments of grass tissue and those silica phytoliths we discussed earlier. The first bombshell came from India. In 2005, a team of scientists published research on grass phytoliths extracted from coprolites, fossilized feces attributed to titanosaur sauropods, those enormous long-necked dinosaurs. These coprolites came from the Lametta Formation in central India and dated to the Maastrichtian age of the late Cretaceous, between 67 and 65 million years ago. Later research in 2011 identified some of these phytoliths as belonging to the Oryzae tribe, the same group that includes modern rice. This meant that not only were grasses present before the dinosaurs went extinct, but they had already diversified into recognizable modern lineages. Then, in 2018, came an even more astonishing discovery. Scientists examining the fossilized teeth of Equidubus normani, a hadrosauroid duck-billed dinosaur from northern China, found grass microfossils trapped in the dental remains. These fossils, including both phytoliths and fragments of silicified epidermis, dated to the Albian stage of the early Cretaceous, approximately 113 to 100 million years ago. Analysis revealed that these microfossils belong to primitive lineages of grasses similar to modern Animalculidae, one of the most ancient grass subfamilies. This discovery pushed the age of grasses back to at least 113 million years ago, more than double the previous estimate. It meant that grasses had evolved during the reign of the dinosaurs, in the early to mid-Cretaceous period. These early grasses would have been very different from modern grasslands. They were likely small, inconspicuous plants growing in the understory of forests or in disturbed areas, far from the dominant vegetation. But they were there, quietly evolving and diversifying, while massive dinosaurs thundered above them. The presence of grass in dinosaur diets is particularly intriguing because most dinosaurs lacked the specialized teeth needed to process grass efficiently. Modern grazing mammals have evolved complex tooth structures and digestive systems specifically adapted to eating grass, which is tough, fibrous, and not particularly nutritious compared to many other plants. Yet here were titanosaurs and hadrosaurs apparently consuming grass despite lacking these specialized adaptations. This suggests that even these early grasses may have been widespread enough to be encountered and consumed, though whether they formed a major part of these dinosaurs' diets or were merely incidental additions to a more varied diet remains an open question that fossil evidence alone cannot definitively answer. By the end of the Cretaceous period, 66 million years ago, grasses were present on multiple continents. Fossil evidence places them in India, Africa, South America, and North America. The two major clades of grasses, the Poaceae clade and the Poaceae clade, had already diverged by this time. The Poaceae clade includes the Bambusoideae, bamboos, Oryzoideae, rice and relatives, and Poaceae, cool season grasses like wheat and Kentucky bluegrass. The Poaceae clade includes several subfamilies of warm season grasses adapted to tropical and subtropical climates. This diversification during the Cretaceous occurred on the ancient supercontinent of Gondwana before it fully broke apart into separate continents. As Gondwana fragmented, grasses rode along on the drifting continental plates, carrying their evolutionary heritage to Africa, South America, India, Australia, and Antarctica. After the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs 66 million years ago, at the boundary between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods, grasses continued to evolve and spread, but they still remained relatively minor components of most ecosystems. During the Paleocene and Eocene epochs, roughly 66 to 34 million years ago, forests dominated most of the planet. The climate was warm and moist, conditions that favor trees over grasses. Grass pollen from this period is found widely but not abundantly, indicating that grasses were present but not particularly common. The real explosion of grasses came later, during the Neogene period, particularly in the Miocene epoch, roughly 23 to 5 million years ago. This is when grasslands as we know them began to spread across the continents, transforming vast areas from forest to prairie, savanna, and steppe. What triggered this dramatic expansion of grasslands is still debated by scientists, but several factors clearly played important roles. One major factor was climate change. The Earth was gradually cooling during this period, and continental interiors were becoming drier. These conditions favored grasses, which are generally more drought-tolerant than trees and can thrive in areas with less rainfall. Mountain building events, including the uplift of the Himalayas and the Andes, disrupted atmospheric circulation patterns and created rain shadows, further expanding arid and semi-arid regions where grasses could flourish. Fire became increasingly important as well. Grasses and fire have a special relationship. Because grass growing points are located at the base of the plant, near or below the soil surface, grasses can survive and quickly recover from fires that would kill or severely damage woody plants. After a fire sweeps through an area, grasses often re-sprout within days or weeks, while trees and shrubs must regrow from seed or from surviving root systems. A much slower process. In areas with frequent fires, grasses gain a competitive advantage over woody vegetation. Perhaps most importantly, the evolution of grazing mammals created conditions that appear to have heavily favored grasses. During the Miocene, several groups of mammals evolved specialized teeth and digestive systems for eating grass. Horses, antelope, bison, elephants, and many other groups developed high-crowned teeth that could withstand the abrasive wear of silica-rich grass. And they evolved complex digestive systems capable of extracting nutrients from tough, fibrous grass tissue. These grazing animals, in turn, created ideal conditions for grasses by removing woody vegetation, recycling nutrients through their dung, and trampling tree seedlings before they could establish. This appears to have created a feedback loop. Grasslands expanded, supporting larger populations of grazing animals, which helped maintain and expand the grasslands further. Meanwhile, grasses continued to evolve, developing even better defenses against grazing and even more efficient growth strategies. Some grasses evolved the ability to reproduce vegetatively through rhizomes and stolons, allowing them to spread horizontally and quickly colonize disturbed areas. Others developed sophisticated chemical defenses to discourage certain grazers while tolerating moderate grazing pressure. One particularly important evolutionary innovation appeared in grasses during this period: C4 photosynthesis. Most plants use what is called C3 photosynthesis, the standard process by which plants convert carbon dioxide and water into sugars using the energy of sunlight. But some grasses evolved a modified version called C4 photosynthesis, which is more efficient at high temperatures and in conditions where carbon dioxide levels are low. C4 grasses can photosynthesize more rapidly in hot, bright conditions, while using less water than C3 grasses. This adaptation allowed certain grasses to thrive in the hottest, driest environments on Earth. Today, C4 grasses dominate tropical and subtropical grasslands. All members of the Chloridoideae subfamily and most species in the Panicoideae subfamily use C4 photosynthesis, and these are the grasses that carpet the tropical savannas of Africa, the llanos of South America, and other warm grasslands around the world. C4 grasses include many economically important species, such as corn, sorghum, sugarcane, and many tropical pasture grasses. By the end of the Neogene period, about 2.5 million years ago, grasslands had become one of Earth's dominant biomes, covering vast areas of every continent except Antarctica. These grasslands supported incredible herds of grazing animals: the great bison herds of North America, the massive herds of wildebeest and other antelope in Africa, the horses and saiga antelope of the Eurasian steppes, and in Africa, these grasslands would eventually become the stage for the evolution of our own species. To truly appreciate the grass family, we must understand its staggering diversity. With 12,000 species spread across 780 genera in 12 subfamilies, grasses have evolved to fill nearly every conceivable ecological niche where plants can survive. The 12 subfamilies represent major evolutionary lineages within the grass family, each with its own characteristics and distribution. The Anomocloideae and Pharoideae are small, ancient subfamilies found only in tropical forests. The Puelioideae are rare grasses from Africa and South America. These three subfamilies together contain only about a dozen species, but they represent some of the most ancient lineages of grasses, retaining characteristics that give us clues about what the earliest grasses might have looked like. The Bambusoideae, or bamboos, comprise about 1,600 species in about 115 genera. Despite their woody appearance and tree-like size in some species, bamboos are true grasses. They retain all the fundamental characteristics of the grass family. They are monocots. They have parallel leaf venation. They possess the characteristic nodes and internodes, and their flowers are organized in the same basic pattern as other grasses. Bamboos are found primarily in tropical and subtropical regions, though some species extend into temperate climates. They include both woody and herbaceous species, both running and clumping growth forms, and both giants and dwarfs. The Oryzoideae is a relatively small subfamily containing about 120 species, but this subfamily includes one of the most important crops in the world: rice. Oryza sativa, cultivated rice, feeds more than half of the human population and is the primary staple food for billions of people, particularly in Asia. Wild rice species and other members of this subfamily are found in tropical and subtropical regions around the world. The Poaceae, often called the cool season grasses or the bow-pea clade grasses, is one of the largest subfamilies, containing about 4,000 species. These are the grasses of temperate regions, the grasses that turn green in cool weather and often go dormant during hot, dry summers. This subfamily includes wheat, barley, oats, rye, and many important forage and lawn grasses such as Kentucky bluegrass, fescues, and ryegrasses. The Poaceae are found primarily in temperate and cold regions of the northern hemisphere, though some species have spread to temperate regions in the southern hemisphere. The remaining subfamilies make up the pack-mad clade, the warm season grasses. The Aristidoideae contains about 350 species in 3 genera, including the needle grasses and 3 orns, which are important components of arid grasslands. The Arundinoideae includes about 40 species, among them the common reed, Phragmites australis, one of the most widely distributed plants on Earth. The Chloridoideae is a large subfamily of about 1,600 species, including many important tropical and subtropical grasses, such as Bermuda grass, buffalo grass, and grama grasses. These are tough, drought-tolerant grasses adapted to grazing and fire. The Danthonioideae contains about 300 species, found mainly in the southern hemisphere. The Micraroideae includes about 200 species of tropical grasses. The largest subfamily of all is the Panicoideae, containing more than 3,700 species. This subfamily includes some of the most economically important grasses in the world: corn, sorghum, sugarcane, and millet. It also includes many important forage grasses such as switchgrass and panic grass, and numerous wild grasses that are staple foods for wildlife. Many members of this subfamily are C4 grasses well adapted to hot tropical climates. This incredible diversity means that grasses have colonized virtually every terrestrial habitat on Earth. You can find grasses in Arctic tundra, where they grow as low mats barely rising above the permafrost. You can find them in tropical rainforests, growing in the dim light of the forest floor, or climbing like vines into the canopy. You can find them in deserts, surviving on minimal rainfall and exploding into growth when rare rains arrive. You can find them in mountain meadows at elevations above 12,000 feet, in coastal salt marshes, periodically inundated by seawater, in freshwater wetlands, and even growing as aquatic plants in rivers and lakes. Grasses range in size from species barely an inch tall to the giant bamboos reaching heights of more than 130 feet. They range from annuals that complete their entire life cycle in a few weeks to perennials that live for decades or even centuries. They include species that reproduce only by seed and species that spread aggressively through underground rhizomes or above-ground stolons, creating massive clones that can cover acres of ground. The flowers of grasses, though small and easily overlooked, show remarkable variation and complexity. All grass flowers are wind-pollinated, so they lack the colorful petals and fragrance that characterize insect-pollinated flowers. Instead, grass flowers are reduced to their essential components: stamens to produce pollen, and pistils to receive pollen and produce seeds. These tiny flowers are organized into units called florets, which are themselves organized into spikelets, which are further organized into complex inflorescences that can take many forms: loose and open, dense and spike-like, or anywhere in between. The arrangement of florets and spikelets is critically important for identifying grass species. Some spikelets contain only a single floret, while others contain many florets arranged along a central axis called a rachilla. Two specialized bracts, called glooms, typically sit at the base of each spikelet, while each individual floret is enclosed by two more bracts, the lemma and the palea. These bracts can be smooth or hairy, short or long, with or without bristle-like extensions called awns. The patterns of these structures are so varied and so consistent within species that botanists can identify many grasses based solely on spikelet structure. Among all the grasses in the world, none capture the imagination quite like bamboo. These remarkable plants challenge our very definition of what grass can be. They grow taller than many trees, form dense forests, provide structural timber, and in some species, grow faster than any other plant on Earth. Let us start with that superlative, fastest growing plant on Earth. This title belongs to bamboo, and it is a well-deserved distinction. The Guinness Book of World Records recognizes certain bamboo species as capable of growing up to 91 centimeters or 35 inches in a single 24-hour period. That is more than a meter of growth per day under ideal conditions. Think about that rate of growth for a moment. At 35 inches per day, you could almost watch bamboo grow, seeing visible movement if you had the patience to observe it for a few minutes. The record for maximum observed growth rate is even more astounding. In 1955, a researcher named Koichiro Ueda measured a shoot of Madak bamboo, Philostachys reticulata, growing 121 centimeters in 24 hours near Kyoto, Japan. The following year, he recorded Moso bamboo, Philostachys edulis, growing 119 centimeters in a single day. These are exceptional rates even for bamboo, occurring under perfect conditions during the peak growth season, but they demonstrate the incredible potential of these plants. Most bamboo species grow fastest during the night. Some species, like Bambusa oldemai, grow up to 3 times faster during nighttime hours than during the day. This nocturnal growth pattern may help protect the tender new tissues from damage by intense sunlight and high temperatures. How do bamboos achieve such phenomenal growth rates? The answer lies in their unique growth strategy. Unlike most plants, which grow through cell division and enlargement at multiple points throughout the plant, bamboo shoots contain all the cells they will ever have before they even emerge from the ground. At the base of an established bamboo clump, you will find large, pointed structures that look somewhat like gigantic asparagus spears. These are dormant shoots, and each one contains, in compressed form, all the cells that will eventually make up a mature culm. When conditions are right, when soil temperature and moisture reach optimal levels, these dormant shoots activate. Water rushes into the compressed cells, inflating them like microscopic balloons. The cell walls are structured in such a way that they can only expand vertically, not horizontally. So as water pressure increases inside the cells, the shoot rapidly elongates. The shoot pushes upward through the soil, sometimes cracking through pavement or other obstacles in its way, driven by the tremendous hydraulic pressure within. This means that a bamboo shoot emerges from the ground with its final diameter already established. A 3-inch diameter shoot will remain 3 inches in diameter its entire life. The shoot does not grow thicker as it ages, though it does harden significantly. When a bamboo culm first emerges, it is soft enough to cut with a knife. Over the following months and years, the culm walls become increasingly lignified, depositing woody material and silica that transform the soft shoot into hard structural timber. Depending on the species and the diameter of the culm, this hardening process takes 1 to 4 years. Once a bamboo shoot reaches its full height, a process that typically takes only a few weeks to a few months, it stops growing vertically forever. It will never grow taller. Instead, the plant focuses its energy on expanding horizontally through rhizome growth and producing new shoots. An established bamboo grove can produce dozens or even hundreds of new shoots each year, and each one will grow to its full height in a single season. The tallest bamboo species are truly spectacular plants. Dendrocalamus giganteus, known as giant bamboo or dragon bamboo, routinely grows 30 to 40 meters tall, with exceptional specimens exceeding 45 meters. That is nearly 150 feet, taller than a 15-story building. The culms of this species can reach diameters of 20 to 35 centimeters at the base. Dendrocalamus sinicus can grow even taller, with reports of specimens reaching 46 meters in height. These giant bamboos are not just tall, they are also remarkably strong. Bamboo has a strength-to-weight ratio similar to steel. It has been used for construction for thousands of years and continues to be used today for scaffolding, building frames, flooring, furniture, and countless other applications. Some bamboo species have tensile strength approaching that of mild steel, making them among the strongest natural materials available. Bamboo forests create unique ecosystems. The dense shade beneath the bamboo canopy prevents most other plants from growing, creating an open understory that can be surprisingly easy to walk through. The regular die-off and replacement of culms provides a constant supply of organic matter to the soil. Many animals depend on bamboo, most famously the giant panda of China, which feeds almost exclusively on bamboo, despite being a carnivore by evolutionary heritage. Red pandas, bamboo lemurs, bamboo rats, and many insects also specialize in eating bamboo. Bamboo has extraordinary cultural significance in many Asian societies. In China, bamboo symbolizes virtue, integrity, and resilience. In Japan, bamboo represents flexibility and strength. The plant appears in countless paintings, poems, and philosophical texts. It has been used for everything from writing surfaces to musical instruments, from weapons to water pipes, from food to fabric. The shoots of many bamboo species are edible and are harvested extensively throughout Asia. Bamboo shoot production is a significant agricultural industry in several countries. The shoots must be harvested young before they harden, and many species require cooking to remove bitter or toxic compounds. Fresh bamboo shoots have a crisp texture and mild flavor and are used in stir-fries, soups, and many other dishes. Bamboo also plays an increasingly important role in sustainable development and carbon sequestration. Because bamboo grows so rapidly and can be harvested without killing the plant, it is highly renewable. Bamboo can be harvested on a 3 to 5 year rotation, compared to 20 to 60 years or more for most timber trees. This rapid renewability makes bamboo an attractive alternative to wood for many applications. Moreover, bamboo is highly effective at absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Because of its rapid growth rate and large biomass, bamboo can sequester significant amounts of carbon in a relatively short time. When bamboo is harvested and used for long-lived products like flooring or furniture, that carbon remains locked up rather than returning to the atmosphere. If the bamboo plant itself is left in place, it continues growing and sequestering more carbon. Bamboo forests also excel at soil conservation. The extensive rhizome networks of bamboo create incredibly stable soil structure, preventing erosion even on steep slopes. Bamboo has been planted specifically for erosion control in many parts of the world. Not all bamboos are giants, however. Some bamboo species are quite small, forming low ground covers just a few inches tall. These dwarf bamboos are popular ornamental plants, used in gardens where a spreading, grass-like ground cover is desired. The diversity within bamboos is nearly as great as the diversity within the grass family as a whole. While bamboo captures our imagination with its size and growth rate, other grasses have shaped human civilization in even more fundamental ways. These are the cereal grasses, the grain-producing species that allowed humans to transition from nomadic hunter-gatherers to settled agricultural societies, and that continue to provide the majority of calories consumed by humanity today. The domestication of cereal grasses represents one of the most important transitions in human history. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans began deliberately cultivating grasses about 10,000 to 12,000 years ago in several different regions of the world. In the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East, people domesticated wheat and barley. In China, they domesticated rice and foxtail millet. In sub-Saharan Africa, they domesticated pearl millet and sorghum. In Mesoamerica, they domesticated corn, also known as maize. Each of these domestication events involved selecting seeds from wild grass populations, planting them, and over many generations, selecting for traits that made the grasses better suited to human use. Wheat, Triticum species, is one of the oldest and most important domesticated grasses. The wheat we cultivate today is actually a complex hybrid, the result of multiple hybridization events between different wild grass species over thousands of years. The exact evolutionary history of wheat is still being unraveled, but it is clear that modern bred wheat, Triticum aestivum, is a hexaploid species, meaning it has 6 sets of chromosomes rather than the usual 2 sets found in most organisms. This unusual genetic makeup arose through hybridization between different wild and cultivated wheat species. Wheat is a cool season grass, growing best in temperate climates with moderate temperatures and adequate moisture. It is typically planted in fall or spring and harvested in summer. Different wheat varieties are adapted to different growing conditions. with winter wheat planted in fall and going dormant during winter, and spring wheat planted as soon as the soil can be worked in spring. Wheat is used primarily for flour production, which is then used to make bread, pasta, pastries, and countless other foods. It is also used for animal feed and has various industrial applications. Rice, Oryza sativa, is arguably the most important crop on Earth in terms of the number of people who depend on it as their primary food source. More than 3.5 billion people eat rice as their main staple, particularly in Asia, but increasingly in other parts of the world as well. Rice was domesticated in the Yangtze River Valley of China approximately 9,000 years ago, and has since spread to become the second most produced grain in the world after corn. Rice is unique among major cereals in its ability to grow in flooded conditions. Most rice varieties are grown in paddy fields that are flooded during the growing season. The plants have special adaptations that allow them to survive and even thrive with their roots submerged in water, conditions that would kill most other plants. This ability to grow in wetlands means that rice can be cultivated in areas unsuitable for other crops, particularly in river valleys and deltas throughout Asia. Rice varieties are incredibly diverse, with tens of thousands of cultivated varieties adapted to different growing conditions, cooking qualities, and cultural preferences. Some varieties are grown in deeply flooded conditions, with stems that elongate rapidly to keep pace with rising water levels. Others are grown on hillsides with no standing water at all. Some varieties mature in just 90 days, while others require 6 months or more. Some produce small, aromatic grains preferred for certain dishes, while others produce large, sticky grains used in different cuisines. Corn, or maize, Zea maize, has a fascinating domestication history. The wild ancestor of corn, a grass called teosinte, looks nothing like modern corn. Teosinte produces tiny ears with just 5 to 12 hard seeds, a far cry from the massive ears of corn we know today, with hundreds of large, soft kernels. The transformation of teosinte into corn through selective breeding is one of the most dramatic examples of plant domestication ever achieved. Corn was domesticated in southern Mexico approximately 9,000 years ago and spread throughout the Americas, becoming the primary staple crop for many indigenous civilizations. The Maya, the Aztecs, the Inca, and countless other cultures based their agricultural systems on corn. When Europeans arrived in the Americas, they adopted corn and carried it back to Europe, Africa, and Asia, where it became an important crop in many regions. Today, corn is the most produced grain in the world, though a relatively small percentage of the corn grown is consumed directly by humans. Much corn production goes to animal feed, particularly for cattle, pigs, and chickens. Corn is also used to produce ethanol for fuel, corn syrup for sweetening, cornstarch for cooking and industry, and hundreds of other products. The rise of high fructose corn syrup in the late 20th century transformed the food industry and changed dietary patterns throughout much of the world. Barley, Hordeum vulgare, is another ancient grain domesticated in the Fertile Crescent around the same time as wheat. Barley is exceptionally hardy and can grow in a wider range of conditions than wheat, including higher elevations, shorter growing seasons, and poorer soils. This adaptability made barley crucial for agriculture in marginal lands. Today, barley is used primarily for animal feed and for malting in the production of beer and whiskey. The distinctive flavor of beer comes largely from malted barley, and the brewing industry is a major consumer of barley grain. Oats, Avena sativa, were probably domesticated later than wheat and barley, and may have initially been considered a weed in wheat fields before being recognized as a valuable crop in their own right. Oats are particularly well adapted to cool, moist climates and are widely grown in northern Europe, Canada, and northern areas of the United States. Oats are used for oatmeal, oat flour, and animal feed, particularly for horses. Recent research has highlighted the health benefits of oats, particularly their content of beta-glucan fiber, which can help reduce cholesterol levels. Rye, Cicale cereale, is another cool season grain, even hardier than wheat and capable of growing in poor soils and cold climates where wheat struggles. Rye is used primarily for bread production, particularly in northern and eastern Europe where rye bread is a traditional staple. Rye can also be used for whiskey production and for animal feed. Sorghum bicolor, is a warm season grain domesticated in Africa. It is exceptionally drought tolerant and heat tolerant, making it valuable in semi-arid tropical regions. Sorghum is a major food crop in Africa and India and is also widely used for animal feed. It can be used to make flour, porridge, and even a sweet syrup. Some varieties of sorghum are grown specifically for their sweet stalks, which are crushed to extract juice used for making syrup and sugar. Millets are a group of several different small-seeded grasses used for food, including pearl millet, finger millet, foxtail millet, and proso millet. These grasses were among the first crops domesticated in Africa and Asia, and they remain important in many regions, particularly in semi-arid areas where their drought tolerance and quick maturation are valuable. Millets are highly nutritious, rich in protein, fiber, and minerals, and are naturally gluten-free. Sugarcane, Saccharum officinarum, is not cultivated for grain, but for the sweet juice in its stalks. Sugarcane is a tropical grass native to Southeast Asia and has been cultivated for thousands of years. The plant grows tall and thick, producing culms filled with sweet, sugary sap. These culms are crushed to extract the juice, which is then processed to produce sugar, molasses, and rum. Sugarcane is the source of about 80% of the world's sugar production. It is also increasingly used to produce ethanol for fuel, particularly in Brazil, where sugarcane ethanol is a major biofuel. These cereal grasses collectively provide about 50% of all calories consumed by humans worldwide. Rice, wheat, and corn alone account for about 42% of human calorie intake. This dependence on just 3 grass species is both a strength and a vulnerability. It is a strength because these crops are highly productive, capable of feeding billions of people. It is a vulnerability because diseases, pests, or environmental changes that affect these crops could have catastrophic consequences for global food security. While cereal grasses feed us, another group of grasses provides the green carpets we walk, play, and relax upon. Lawn grasses, turf grasses, and the grasses used for sports fields represent a significant portion of the grass we interact with daily, particularly in urban and suburban areas. The concept of the lawn, as we understand it today, is a relatively recent invention. For most of human history, large expanses of closely mowed grass were a luxury only the wealthy could afford. Maintaining short grass required either large herds of grazing animals or teams of workers with scythes, both expensive propositions. The development of the mechanical lawnmower in the 19th century made lawns practical for middle-class homeowners, and the lawn became a standard feature of suburban landscapes, particularly in the United States and Europe. Today, lawns cover an estimated 40 to 50 million acres in the United States alone, making turf grass the single largest irrigated crop in the country by area. This vast expanse of maintained grass has significant environmental and economic impacts, both positive and negative. On the positive side, lawns provide green space, absorb rainwater, reduce soil erosion, produce oxygen, and sequester carbon. On the negative side, lawn maintenance requires water, fertilizers, pesticides, and fossil fuels for mowing, and most lawn grasses are not native to the regions where they are grown. Kentucky bluegrass, Poa pratensis, is perhaps the most famous and widely used lawn grass in North America, despite the fact that it is not native to Kentucky or even to North America. This grass is native to Europe, North Asia, and parts of North Africa. It was introduced to North America by European settlers and became naturalized across much of the continent. The name Kentucky bluegrass comes from the blue-green color of its seed heads and from its early popularity in Kentucky pastures. Kentucky bluegrass is a cool-season perennial grass that spreads through rhizomes, forming a dense, attractive turf. It has excellent cold hardiness, tolerating harsh winters that would kill many other grass species. It prefers full sun and fertile, well-drained soil, though it can tolerate light shade. The grass greens up early in spring, grows actively during cool weather, and often goes dormant during hot, dry summers unless irrigated. It has moderate drought tolerance once established, but requires regular watering to maintain its lush green appearance during hot weather. One of the key advantages of Kentucky bluegrass is its ability to repair itself. Because it spreads via rhizomes, damaged areas of a Kentucky bluegrass lawn can fill in naturally as the surrounding grass spreads into the bare spots. This makes Kentucky bluegrass particularly suitable for high-traffic areas and sports fields where wear and tear is common. However, Kentucky bluegrass also has significant maintenance requirements. It needs regular mowing during the growing season, typically once per week or more frequently during peak growth periods. It benefits from fertilization several times per year to maintain good color and density. It can be susceptible to various diseases, particularly in humid conditions, and may require fungicide applications. It requires a moderate to high amount of water, making it less than ideal for arid regions unless irrigation is available. Tall fescue, Festuca arundinacea, is another cool season grass widely used for lawns and pastures. Unlike Kentucky bluegrass, tall fescue grows in bunches rather than spreading through rhizomes. It has deeper roots than Kentucky bluegrass, giving it better drought tolerance and heat tolerance. This makes tall fescue particularly popular in transition zone regions, where summers are too hot for Kentucky bluegrass to thrive, but winters are too cold for warm season grasses. Tall fescue requires less maintenance than Kentucky bluegrass, tolerates a wider range of soil conditions, and has good shade tolerance. Fine fescues are a group of several closely related grass species, including red fescue, chewings fescue, hard fescue, and sheep fescue. These grasses have very fine, narrow blades and excellent shade tolerance, making them valuable components of lawn seed mixtures for shaded areas. Fine fescues require less fertilizer, less water, and less mowing than Kentucky bluegrass, making them attractive for low-maintenance lawns. However, they do not tolerate heavy traffic as well as Kentucky bluegrass. Perennial ryegrass, Lolium perenne, is a cool season grass that germinates and established quickly, making it valuable for rapid lawn establishment and for overseeding existing lawns. It has a bright green color and fine texture. However, it is less cold hardy than Kentucky bluegrass and may suffer damage or death during severe winters. It is often used in mixture with other grasses rather than as a pure stand. In warmer regions, warm season grasses dominate. Bermuda grass, Cynodon dactylon, is perhaps the most widely used warm season lawn grass. It is native to Africa, but has naturalized throughout tropical and subtropical regions worldwide. Bermuda grass spreads aggressively through both rhizomes and stolons, forming an extremely dense turf that can tolerate heavy traffic, heat, and drought. It is widely used for sports fields, golf courses, and lawns in southern regions. However, it requires full sun, goes dormant, and turns brown during cool weather, and can be invasive, spreading into flower beds and other areas where it is not wanted. Zoysia grass is another warm season grass, native to Asia, that forms a dense, cushiony turf. It has better shade tolerance than Bermuda grass and remains green later into fall. However, it establishes slowly, requires more maintenance than Bermuda grass, and can develop thick thatch layers that require periodic removal. Buffalo grass, Bouteloua dactyloides, is a warm season grass native to the North American Great Plains. It is exceptionally drought tolerant and low maintenance, requiring minimal mowing, watering, and fertilization once established. It forms a low, spreading turf suitable for low-use areas. However, it goes dormant and turns brown during winter and requires full sun. Sports turf requires special considerations beyond standard lawn maintenance. Athletic fields, golf courses, and other high-use turf areas need grasses that can withstand intense traffic, recover quickly from damage, and provide safe, consistent playing surfaces. Different sports have different requirements. Golf putting greens demand extremely low mowing heights, requiring special grasses like bent grass that can tolerate being mowed to 1/10 of an inch or less. Football and soccer fields need durable grasses that can withstand repeated impacts and cleated shoes. Many modern sports facilities use artificial turf rather than natural grass, particularly for indoor facilities and in climates where maintaining natural turf is difficult. Artificial turf technology has improved significantly, with modern synthetic surfaces designed to mimic the feel and performance characteristics of natural grass. However, artificial turf has its own set of issues, including heat retention, potential for injuries, and environmental concerns related to the production and disposal of synthetic materials. Beyond feeding us and providing places to walk and play, grasses perform crucial environmental services that are often overlooked or underappreciated. Perhaps none of these services is more important in our current era of climate change than the ability of grasslands to capture and store carbon. Grasslands store approximately 1/3 of all terrestrial carbon on Earth. To put this in perspective, forests get far more attention as carbon sinks, and deservedly so. They contain massive amounts of carbon in their wood and vegetation. But grasslands, despite having far less above-ground biomass than forests, store comparable amounts of carbon overall, because most of that carbon is underground in the soil. This difference in carbon storage location is critically important. The carbon stored in trees is vulnerable to fires, logging, and disease. When a forest burns or is cleared, much of its stored carbon returns to the atmosphere relatively quickly. But the carbon stored in grassland soils is protected from most disturbances. Even when fire sweeps through a grassland, consuming all the above-ground vegetation, the carbon in the soil remains largely intact. Grassland fires are typically low-intensity, fast-moving events that do not generate enough heat to significantly affect soil carbon. How do grasslands sequester so much carbon? The answer lies in their root systems. As we discussed earlier, many prairie grasses develop extraordinary root systems, extending 8 to 12 feet deep or more. These roots make up about 60 to 70% of the total plant biomass in grasslands, compared to less than 20% in forests. Every year, a significant portion of these roots dies and is replaced by new growth. This constant turnover deposits massive amounts of organic material directly into the soil, Living roots also contribute carbon to the soil through exudation. As roots grow, they continuously release carbon-rich compounds into the surrounding soil. These compounds feed the community of bacteria and fungi that inhabit the rhizosphere, the soil zone immediately surrounding roots. These microorganisms, in turn, play crucial roles in building stable soil organic matter that can persist for centuries or millennia. A substance called glomalin, discovered only in 1996, has proven particularly important in understanding soil carbon storage. Glomalin is a protein produced by mycorrhizal fungi, the beneficial fungi that form symbiotic relationships with most plant roots. Glomalin acts like a biological superglue, binding soil particles together and helping trap carbon in stable aggregates that resist decomposition. Prairie soils are particularly rich in glomalin, which helps explain their remarkable carbon storage capacity. Over time, this accumulation of root-derived organic matter transforms the soil into a carbon-rich soil type called mollisol. Mollisols, characterized by their deep, dark, nutrient-rich topsoil, are found almost exclusively under grasslands. They are among the most fertile soils on Earth, which is why so many prairies have been converted to cropland. Unfortunately, this conversion releases massive amounts of stored carbon. Studies have found that prairie soils converted to agriculture can lose 50% or more of their organic carbon within a few decades as tillage accelerates decomposition. Recent research has highlighted that grasslands may be more reliable carbon sinks than forests in the face of climate change. A study from the University of California, Davis, examined carbon storage in California grasslands and forests under various future climate scenarios. The researchers found that under most projected climate conditions, grasslands proved more resilient as carbon sinks than forests. Warming temperatures, extended droughts, and increased wildfire risk are turning many forests from carbon sinks into carbon sources, as trees die and burn, releasing their stored carbon. Grasslands, by contrast, continued to store carbon even under severe drought conditions, and they recovered quickly from fire. The study suggested that grasslands are predicted to be carbon neutral or carbon positive through 2101 under current emission trajectories, while forests were projected to become net carbon sources under most scenarios. This does not mean we should replace forests with grasslands. Forests provide many other critical benefits, but it does mean we should recognize and protect the carbon storage capacity of grasslands. The carbon sequestration potential of grasslands is substantial. Research suggests that improved grassland management and restoration could sequester 2.3 to 7.3 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalents per year globally through biodiversity restoration, plus an additional 148 to 699 megatons through improved grazing management, and 147 megatons through planting legumes in pasturelands. Proper grazing management is key to maximizing carbon sequestration in grasslands. Holistic planned grazing, which mimics the grazing patterns of wild herds, can actually increase carbon storage in grassland soils. This approach involves moving livestock frequently to prevent overgrazing any single area, allowing adequate recovery time for plants between grazing events. When done correctly, this management stimulates root growth, increases plant diversity, and enhances soil carbon storage. Research has shown that well-managed grasslands can sequester carbon at rates ranging from 0.3 to 1.7 metric tons per acre per year. Over time, this capacity accumulates. A study on restored grassland biodiversity found that carbon sequestration rates accelerated over time, with high-diversity grassland restoration producing 200% greater carbon storage than monocultures by years 13 through 22. Urban lawns also contribute to carbon sequestration, though on a smaller scale than natural grasslands. Studies estimate that managed lawns in the United States sequester between 12.5 and 95 million tons of atmospheric carbon dioxide annually, equivalent to the emissions from 2.4 to 18 million passenger vehicles. On a typical half-acre suburban lot, 81 to 90% of the carbon captured comes from the grass, with trees and shrubs accounting for the remainder. The carbon storage in turf grass systems can continue for 25 years or more, gradually building up soil organic carbon. The rate of carbon accumulation depends on many factors, including grass species, climate, soil type, and management practices. Practices that return grass clippings to the lawn rather than collecting them enhance carbon storage, as do practices that minimize tillage and soil disturbance. Grasslands, the ecosystems dominated by grasses, cover approximately 40 to 42% of the Earth's land surface, excluding Greenland and Antarctica. These vast landscapes take many forms and go by many names. In North America, we call them prairies. In South America, they are pampas, or llanos, or cerrado. In Africa, savannas. In Eurasia, steppes. In Australia, the outback. Despite their regional differences, all share the fundamental characteristic of being dominated by grasses rather than trees or shrubs. Why do grasslands occur where they do? The answer involves a complex interplay of climate, fire, grazing, and soil conditions. Generally, grasslands occur in regions too dry to support forests, but wet enough to prevent deserts. The transition between forest and grassland, and between grassland and desert, is often gradual and can shift over time as climate changes. Rainfall is typically the primary limiting factor. In regions with more than about 30 to 40 inches of rainfall per year, and without other limiting factors, forests tend to dominate. Below about 10 inches per year, deserts prevail. In between, grasslands flourish. But rainfall alone does not determine vegetation type. Distribution of rainfall throughout the year matters too. Grasslands often occur in regions where rainfall is seasonal, with distinct wet and dry seasons, even if total annual rainfall would be sufficient for forests. Temperature also plays a crucial role. Cool season grasslands, such as the tall grass and mixed grass prairies of North America and the steppes of Central Asia, occur in temperate regions with cold winters. These grasslands are dominated by C3 grasses that grow most actively during cool, moist periods in spring and fall. Warm season grasslands, such as African savannas and South American cerrado, occur in tropical and subtropical regions, where C4 grasses, with their superior heat and drought tolerance, dominate. Fire has been an essential force shaping grasslands for millions of years. Grasses are remarkably fire adapted. Their growing points, located at or below ground level, are protected from the flames that sweep across the landscape. Within days or weeks after a fire, grass shoots emerge from these protected growing points, rapidly colonizing the burned landscape. Trees and shrubs, by contrast, must regenerate from seed or from surviving underground root systems, a much slower process. In regions with frequent fires, this gives grasses a decisive competitive advantage. Many grasslands require periodic fire to maintain their character. Without fire, woody plants gradually invade, and over time, the grassland transitions to shrubland or forest. Indigenous peoples understood this and used fire as a management tool for thousands of years, deliberately burning grasslands to prevent woody encroachment, promote fresh grass growth, and improve habitat for game animals. When European settlers suppressed these traditional burning practices in places like North America, many grasslands began their transformation into shrubland. Large herbivores also play critical roles in maintaining grasslands. By grazing vegetation, herbivores remove biomass that would otherwise accumulate as thatch or dead plant material. Their hooves break through soil crusts, creating opportunities for seeds to germinate. Their dung recycles nutrients and provides habitat for countless insects and other organisms. Their trampling kills tree seedlings before they can establish, maintaining the open character of grasslands. The relationship between grasslands and herbivores is ancient and intimate. As grasslands expanded during the Miocene epoch, so did populations of grazing mammals. These animals, in turn, appear to have influenced the evolution of grasses through selective pressure, with natural selection favoring traits like rapid regrowth after grazing, production of horizontal spreading rhizomes, and increased silica content that made leaves tougher and more abrasive. This co-evolutionary process likely created the tight linkage between grasslands and grazers that persists today, though disentangling cause and effect in such ancient relationships remains challenging for scientists. The tall grass prairie once covered about 170 million acres in the central United States, from Minnesota to Texas. This was one of the most productive ecosystems on Earth, dominated by grasses like big bluestem, Indian grass, and switchgrass that could grow 6 to 8 feet tall or more. The deep, rich soil of the tall grass prairie region, built over thousands of years of grass growth and decomposition, made it some of the best agricultural land in the world. As a result, more than 99% of the original tallgrass prairie has been converted to cropland. Today, tallgrass prairie exists primarily in tiny, isolated remnants, making it one of the most endangered ecosystems in North America. Moving westward across North America, where rainfall decreases, the tallgrass prairie transitions into mixed grass prairie, then shortgrass prairie, sometimes called the Great Plains. These drier grasslands support grasses adapted to drought and grazing, species like blue grama, buffalo grass, and side oats grama. The historic bison herds that once numbered in the tens of millions grazed these grasslands, moving in massive herds that could stretch for miles. In Africa, grasslands cover vast areas. From the savannas of East Africa, famous for their spectacular wildlife, to the veld of southern Africa. African savannas support an incredible diversity of large mammals: elephants, rhinoceros, buffalo, various antelope species, zebras, giraffes, and the predators that hunt them. The Serengeti Mara ecosystem hosts one of the last great wildlife migrations on Earth, with over 1 million wildebeest and hundreds of thousands of zebra and gazelle moving in an annual cycle following rainfall and grass growth. The Eurasian steppe, stretching from Hungary in the west through Kazakhstan to Mongolia and northeastern China, represents the largest continuous grassland on Earth. This was the homeland of pastoral nomads for thousands of years, people who developed mobile lifestyles based on herding sheep, goats, cattle, and horses across these vast grasslands. The steppe ecosystem shaped human history in profound ways, serving as a corridor for the movement of peoples, ideas, and technologies between East and West. South American grasslands are equally impressive. The Pampas of Argentina and Uruguay are temperate grasslands similar in many ways to the North American prairies. The Cerrado of Brazil is a vast tropical savanna ecosystem, the most diverse savanna on Earth, with incredible botanical richness. The llanos of Venezuela and Colombia flood seasonally, creating unique wetland grasslands. Australian grasslands, sometimes called the outback when they grade into semi-desert conditions, cover vast areas of the interior of the continent. These grasslands support unique wildlife, including kangaroos, wallabies, and emus, as well as large numbers of sheep and cattle in areas where rainfall permits grazing. Today, grasslands worldwide face multiple threats. Conversion to cropland remains a major threat, as it has been for over a century. In some regions, overgrazing damages grassland ecosystems, reducing plant diversity and productivity. In others, suppression of fire allows woody plants to invade and transform grasslands into shrubland or forest. Climate change poses additional challenges, with shifting rainfall patterns and rising temperatures affecting grassland species and productivity. Invasive species, both plant and animal, disrupt native grassland ecosystems in many regions. Yet grasslands are proving remarkably resilient where they are properly managed. Grassland restoration projects have shown that even heavily degraded grasslands can recover their diversity and productivity with appropriate management. The reintroduction of fire as a management tool, careful grazing management, and replanting of native grass species are helping to restore grassland ecosystems across North America and other regions. Growing from the bottom up, unique grass adaptations, one of the most remarkable features of grasses, one that sets them apart from almost all other plants, is where they grow. If you cut the top off most plants, you kill them, or at least severely damage them, because the growing points, the meristematic tissues that produce new cells, are located at the tips of stems and roots. Remove these growing points, and the plant cannot produce new tissue. But grasses are different, fundamentally different. In grasses, the primary growing points are located at or near the base of the plant, at or below ground level. These growing regions are called basal meristems, and they are the secret to grasses' remarkable ability to survive and thrive, despite being repeatedly eaten, mowed, trampled, and burned. When you mow your lawn, you are removing the leaf blades, but the growing points remain intact at the base of each plant, protected and ready to immediately begin producing new leaves. When a bison grazes a prairie, it may consume most of the above-ground vegetation, but it cannot reach the growing points, so the grass rapidly regrows. This growth strategy is called intercalary meristem growth, meaning that growth occurs at intermediate positions along the plant rather than just at the tips. In addition to the basal meristems that produce new leaves and tillers, grasses also possess intercalary meristems at the base of each internode on the stem. These meristems allow the stem to continue elongating even after the upper portions are mature. This growth pattern has profound implications. It means that grass can be grazed or mowed frequently without harm. And in fact, moderate grazing or mowing can actually stimulate grass growth. When you remove older leaf blades through mowing, you increase light penetration to the base of the plant, stimulating the basal meristems to produce new tillers and leaves. This is why a well-maintained lawn stays dense and green. The regular mowing stimulates the grass to produce more shoots. The ability to regrow from the base also makes grasses supremely adapted to fire. Grassland fires typically move quickly across the landscape, consuming dry vegetation, but not generating the intense heat necessary to damage the soil or the basal meristems protected at or below ground level. Within days after a fire, new green shoots emerge from these protected growing points. The fire removes accumulated thatch, returns nutrients to the soil in ash, eliminates many disease organisms and pests, and stimulates vigorous regrowth. Many prairie plants are so adapted to fire that they grow more vigorously after burning than without it. Another remarkable adaptation involves the silica that many grasses deposit in their tissues. As grass roots absorb water from the soil, they also absorb silicic acid, a dissolved form of silicon. This silicon is transported to the leaves, where it is deposited as amorphous silica, forming microscopic structures called phytoliths within and between cells. The accumulation of silica makes grass leaves tough and abrasive, like biological sandpaper. This provides protection against herbivores. Grazing animals must wear down their teeth continuously throughout their lives because the silica in grass acts as an abrasive, steadily grinding away tooth enamel. Many grazing mammals have evolved high-crowned teeth with thick enamel specifically to cope with this abrasion. Horses, for example, have teeth that continue erupting throughout much of their lives, replacing the material worn away by chewing grass. For animals that have not evolved specialized teeth for eating grass, the silica makes grass difficult or impossible to digest efficiently. This is one reason why grass is such successful vegetation. It is well defended against many potential grazers. Only animals with the right dental and digestive adaptations can make grass a major part of their diet. The phytoliths left behind when grass dies and decomposes are virtually indestructible. They persist in the soil for thousands or even millions of years, providing paleobotanists and archaeologists with valuable evidence of past vegetation. The shape of phytoliths is often distinctive enough to identify not just that grasses were present, but sometimes which specific types of grasses were growing in an area. This has allowed scientists to reconstruct ancient environments and understand how grasslands spread and changed over time. Grasses also possess remarkable reproductive flexibility. Most grasses can reproduce both sexually, through seeds, and asexually, through vegetative spread. Sexual reproduction through seeds allows grasses to colonize new areas and creates genetic variation that enables adaptation to changing conditions. Asexual reproduction through rhizomes and stolons allows grasses to spread locally and to quickly occupy available space. Some grasses spread primarily through rhizomes, underground horizontal stems that travel through the soil and send up new shoots at intervals. Kentucky bluegrass and many bamboos spread this way, creating extensive clones that can cover large areas. These grasses are called rhizomatous grasses or running grasses. Other grasses spread primarily through stolons, above-ground horizontal stems that run along the surface of the soil, rooting at nodes and producing new shoots. Bermuda grass spreads aggressively through both rhizomes and stolons, which explains its ability to rapidly colonize disturbed areas and its reputation as an invasive species in some regions. Some grasses are bunch grasses, growing in distinct tufts without spreading horizontally. These grasses expand slowly, primarily by adding new tillers to the existing bunch and by seed dispersal. Many prairie grasses are bunch grasses, creating the characteristic tussocky appearance of native grasslands. The flowering and seed production strategies of grasses are equally diverse. Some grasses are annuals, completing their entire life cycle in a single growing season. These annuals often produce huge numbers of seeds, colonizing disturbed areas quickly. Many weed grasses are annuals. Other grasses are perennials, living for many years and producing seeds each year. Perennial grasses invest more energy in root systems and vegetative spread and typically produce fewer seeds than annuals. One remarkable phenomenon in some bamboos is synchronized flowering. Most bamboos do not flower every year. In fact, many bamboo species go decades between flowering events. But when they do flower, often all individuals of that species flower at the same time, regardless of where they are growing or what conditions they are experiencing. After flowering and producing seeds, many bamboo species die, or at least the culms that flowered die back. This synchronized mass flowering and die-off can have dramatic ecological effects, providing a sudden bonanza of seeds that support population explosions of rodents and other seed-eating animals. The influence of grass on human culture extends far beyond agriculture and nutrition. Grasses have shaped how we live, how we play, how we build, and how we think about nature and landscape. In many cultures, grass and grasslands carry deep symbolic meaning. The endless horizons of grasslands represent freedom and openness. Think of the American frontier, the romance of the Old West, cowboys and cattle drives across open range. The prairie represented opportunity, possibility, and sometimes danger. The tall grasses that could hide riders, the vast distances, the enormous sky, these shaped American identity in fundamental ways. In Asian cultures, bamboo holds particular significance. In Chinese philosophy and art, bamboo represents integrity, elegance, and resilience. The plant bends in storms but does not break, symbolizing the quality of adapting to difficulties without losing one's essential character. Bamboo also represents longevity and steadfastness because it remains green year-round. Countless Chinese paintings feature bamboo, and the ability to paint bamboo well was considered a mark of artistic skill and character. Japanese culture also reveres bamboo, incorporating it into everything from architecture to tea ceremony utensils to martial arts equipment. The sound of wind through bamboo groves is considered aesthetically and spiritually significant. Bamboo forests surround many Shinto shrines, creating sacred spaces. Sports played on grass have become global phenomena. Soccer, or football as it is known outside North America, is played on grass pitches around the world and is arguably the most popular sport on Earth. Cricket, another British export, requires carefully maintained grass pitches. Baseball, America's pastime, features carefully tended grass infields and outfields. American football, rugby, field hockey, numerous major sports are played on grass. The quality of the playing surface can significantly affect the game, which is why groundskeepers at major sporting venues are highly skilled professionals. Golf, in particular, has an intense relationship with grass. Golf courses are perhaps the most intensively managed grasslands on Earth, with different grass species and maintenance regimes for greens, fairways, tees, and rough. The grass on putting greens may be mowed daily to precise heights as low as 1/10 of an inch. Golf course maintenance is a specialized science, and billions of dollars worldwide are spent annually maintaining grass on golf courses. Construction using grass materials has a long history. Thatch roofs, made from bundles of dried grass or reed stems, have sheltered people in many cultures. Traditional African rondavels, European cottages, and Asian houses often featured grass thatch roofs. Properly constructed and maintained, a thatch roof can last 30 to 50 years or more, providing excellent insulation and waterproofing. Bamboo's use in construction is even more extensive. In many parts of Asia, bamboo serves as scaffolding for construction projects, even on modern high-rise buildings in Hong Kong. Bamboo scaffolding is lighter, more flexible, and in some ways safer than metal scaffolding. Entire buildings can be constructed from bamboo, from simple houses to elaborate structures. Bamboo flooring has become popular in recent years as a sustainable alternative to hardwood, and bamboo is used for furniture, cabinets, and decorative items. Grass has also been processed into various products. Straw, the dried stems of cereal grasses after grain harvest, has numerous uses. It serves as animal bedding, as a mulch in gardens, as a construction material in straw bale buildings, as the raw material for thatched roofs, and even as a source of cellulose for paper production. Rice straw is particularly abundant, with hundreds of millions of tons produced annually worldwide. Paper production has historically relied heavily on grasses. While most paper today is made from wood pulp, grass fibers have been used for paper making for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptian papyrus was made from the papyrus sedge, not a true grass, but closely related. Asian papers traditionally used bamboo, rice straw, and other grass fibers. Today, some specialty papers still use grass fibers, and there is renewed interest in using agricultural grass residues for paper production as a sustainable alternative to cutting trees. Textiles can be made from grass fibers as well. Bamboo fabric has become increasingly popular in recent years, though the production process typically involves chemical processing that degrades the environmental benefits of using bamboo rather than cotton. Other grasses produce fibers suitable for weaving into mats, baskets, hats, and other products. Biofuel production increasingly uses grasses as feedstock. Corn ethanol is a major biofuel industry, particularly in the United States, though there is ongoing debate about its environmental benefits and its impact on food prices. Switchgrass and other perennial prairie grasses are being developed as biofuel crops, potentially offering better environmental performance than corn ethanol. Sugarcane ethanol, produced primarily in Brazil, is generally considered more efficient than corn ethanol and makes up a significant percentage of Brazil's transportation fuel. Musical instruments have been made from grass materials for thousands of years. Bamboo is particularly important, used to make flutes, didgeridoos, xylophones, and numerous other instruments. The grass stems used in reed instruments like saxophones, clarinets, and oboes come from Arundo donax, a large cane species. The quality of these reeds significantly affects the sound of the instrument, and professional musicians are particular about their reed choice. Even in death, grass serves us. Natural burial grounds, sometimes called green cemeteries, avoid the environmental impacts of traditional burial practices by using biodegradable materials and allowing native grasses and wildflowers to grow over graves, rather than maintaining mowed lawn. This creates habitat for wildlife and preserves natural grassland vegetation. Bringing it all together, the remarkable reality of grass. As we approach the end of our journey through the world of grass, let us gather together some final remarkable facts that highlight just how extraordinary these plants truly are. Grass is the most widespread type of vegetation on Earth, found on every continent, including Antarctica, where 2 species of grass grow on the Antarctic Peninsula. No other plant family has achieved such complete global distribution. From sea level to elevations above 16,000 feet, from the equator to the Arctic Circle, from wetlands to deserts, grasses have conquered nearly every terrestrial habitat that supports plant life. The grass family contains more than 12,000 species, making it the 5th largest plant family on Earth. Only the daisy family, the orchid family, the legume family, and the madder family contain more species. But while those families may have more species, none rivals the grass family in economic importance or geographic distribution. More than half of the human diet comes directly or indirectly from grasses. Cereal grains provide about 48% of the calories consumed by humans worldwide. When you add the meat, milk, and eggs produced by livestock fed on grass and grain, the proportion increases further. Without grasses, human civilization in its current form would be impossible. 3 grass species, rice, wheat, and corn, together provide 42% of all calories consumed by humans. This is both remarkable and somewhat concerning. Our dependence on just 3 species for such a large proportion of our food makes global food security vulnerable to diseases, pests, or climate changes that affect these specific crops. Grass domestication occurred independently in multiple regions around the world. People in the Middle East domesticated wheat and barley. People in China domesticated rice. People in Mesoamerica domesticated corn. And people in Africa domesticated sorghum and pearl millet. Each of these domestication and events represented a crucial turning point in human history, enabling the development of settled agricultural societies. The tallest grass, Dendrocalamus giganteus, can exceed 130 feet in height, taller than a 12-story building. The shortest grasses barely reach a few inches tall, even at maturity. This size range is greater than in most plant families and demonstrates the incredible adaptability of the grass growth form. Bamboo holds the world record for fastest plant growth, with some species growing more than 3 feet in a single day under ideal conditions. In one recorded instance, Maddock bamboo grew 121 centimeters, nearly 4 feet in 24 hours. You could almost watch it grow if you had the patience. A single grass plant can produce thousands or even tens of thousands of seeds. Annual grasses, in particular, invest heavily in seed production. Some estimates suggest that a single crabgrass plant, allowed to complete its full life cycle, can produce more than 150,000 seeds. This incredible seed production allows grasses to colonize new areas rapidly. The root system of prairie grasses can weigh more than the above-ground vegetation by a factor of 2 or 3 to 1. In a tall grass prairie, below-ground biomass typically ranges from 60 to 70% of total plant biomass, compared to less than 20% in forests. This massive root system is key to the carbon storage capacity of grasslands. Some grass roots can extend more than 12 feet deep into the soil. These deep roots allow grasses to access water and nutrients unavailable to shallow-rooted plants and contribute to soil formation at great depths. The deepest roots also make grasses remarkably drought-resistant. Grasslands can store as much carbon as forests, despite having far less above-ground biomass. The carbon in grasslands is primarily stored in soil rather than in vegetation, making it more stable and less vulnerable to disturbance than forest carbon. Some estimates suggest grasslands store about 1/3 of all terrestrial carbon. A single acre of restored prairie can sequester about 1 ton of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere per year. Multiplied across millions of acres, grassland restoration and improved grassland management could make significant contributions to climate change mitigation. Lawns in the United States cover an estimated 40 to 50 million acres, making turf grass the largest irrigated crop in the country by area. This vast acreage has significant environmental impacts, consuming water, fertilizer, and fossil fuels for maintenance, but also providing green space, reducing urban heat, and sequestering carbon. The grass family is about 113 million years old, based on fossil evidence from dinosaur remains. For comparison, primates evolved about 60 million years ago, and modern humans emerged only about 300,000 years ago. Grasses were already ancient when our species appeared. Grasses co-evolved with grazing mammals over millions of years. The evolution of grasses with their protected basal meristems that allow regrowth after grazing occurred in parallel with the evolution of large herbivores with specialized teeth and digestive systems for eating grass. This co-evolution shaped both the grasses and the animals, creating the tight ecological relationship we see today. Fire has been a natural part of grassland ecology for millions of years. Many grassland plants are not just fire-tolerant, but fire-dependent, requiring periodic burning to maintain health and productivity. Without fire, many grasslands would transition to shrubland or forest. Grasses can survive in extreme environments. Some grass species grow in Death Valley, one of the hottest and driest places on Earth. Others grow in the Arctic, enduring months of darkness and extreme cold. Some grasses tolerate salty soils that would kill most plants. This environmental tolerance contributes to the worldwide distribution of grasses. The silica content in some grasses is so high that their leaves can cut human skin. This same silica provides protection against herbivores and, when deposited as phytoliths, creates an invaluable fossil record that helps scientists understand ancient environments. More than 70% of grasslands worldwide have been converted to other uses, primarily agriculture. The most productive grasslands, with their deep, rich soils, were the first to be plowed for crops. Today, remaining grasslands are among the most endangered ecosystems on Earth, particularly temperate grasslands like the North American tallgrass prairie. Grass pollen is a major cause of seasonal allergies. For all the benefits grasses provide, their wind-pollinated flowers produce massive amounts of pollen that trigger allergic reactions in many people. This is the price we pay for living surrounded by grasses. Kentucky bluegrass is not from Kentucky and is not exclusively blue. It is native to Europe and Asia, and was introduced to North America by European settlers. The blue color refers to its seed heads, not its foliage, which is typically green. Bamboo can be stronger than steel in tensile strength, with some species testing at tensile strengths of 60,000 pounds per square inch. This exceptional strength-to-weight ratio makes bamboo valuable for construction, and it has been used for scaffolding, bridges, and buildings for thousands of years. A mature bamboo plant can produce dozens of new shoots each year, each reaching full height within weeks. This rapid productivity makes bamboo one of the most renewable resources available. A bamboo grove can be harvested every 3 to 5 years, compared to 20 to 60 years for most timber trees. The word grass itself has interesting etymology. It comes from the Old English gres and is related to similar words in other Germanic languages, and to words meaning green and grow in various Indo-European languages. The connection between grass, greenness, and growth runs deep in our linguistic history. Grass lawns became popular in Europe during the Middle Ages among the wealthy, who could afford to maintain large expanses of short grass. The lawn became a status symbol, showing that the owner could afford land that produced no food or other useful products. Today, this tradition continues, with well-maintained lawns still carrying social significance in many communities. The development of the mechanical lawnmower in 1830 made lawns practical for middle-class homeowners. Before this invention, maintaining short grass required grazing animals or teams of workers with scythes. The lawnmower democratized the lawn, turning it from an exclusive luxury into a standard feature of suburban life. Grass continues to evolve and adapt. New grass varieties are constantly being developed through both traditional breeding and modern genetic techniques. Scientists are working on grasses with better drought tolerance, disease resistance, lower maintenance requirements, and improved environmental performance. The grass of the future may be quite different from the grass of today. The story of grass is ultimately a story of success, evolutionary success, ecological success, and the success that comes from forming partnerships with other organisms, from nitrogen-fixing bacteria in the soil to the humans who cultivate and spread grasses across the globe. Grasses have shaped our planet's ecosystems, our climate, and our civilization in ways both obvious and subtle, both past and ongoing. So now you know. You know that the grass beneath your feet is no simple thing, but rather a member of one of the most successful, diverse, and important plant families on Earth. You know that grass has been shaped by fire and grazing across millions of years. You know that grasses store carbon, prevent erosion, feed billions, and cover nearly half the land on our planet. The next time you walk across a lawn, or see a field of wheat golden in the sun, or watch bamboo swaying in the breeze, or observe the vast grasslands stretching to the horizon, perhaps you will pause for a moment. Perhaps you will remember these facts, these stories, this remarkable family of plants that have given us bread and sugar, baseball fields and prairies, bamboo forests and suburban lawns. Grass is everywhere, yet often invisible in its ubiquity. But now you see it differently. Now you understand its ancient origins, its clever adaptations, its ecological importance, and its profound influence on human civilization. From feeding dinosaurs in the Cretaceous to feeding billions of humans today, from tiny shoots to towering bamboo, from simple beginnings to global dominance, grass has written its story across the face of our planet in shades of green and gold. And that story continues. As climate changes, as landscapes transform, as humans face the challenge of feeding a growing population on a warming planet, grasses will continue to play a central role. Understanding these remarkable plants, appreciating their complexity and their value, is more important than ever. If you have enjoyed this journey through the world of grass, please consider subscribing to our channel and sharing this video with others who might appreciate learning about the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. Leave a comment sharing your own observations or experiences with grass. Do you have a favorite grass species, or a question about something we have discussed tonight? We would love to hear from you. Until next time, may your path be lined with green, your knowledge ever growing, and your appreciation for the natural world continually deepening. This has been Sleep Smarter, exploring the fascinating facts about grass. Thank you for joining us, and sleep well. Before we conclude, let us explore a few more fascinating dimensions of grass that further illuminate why this plant family deserves our wonder and appreciation. Consider the remarkable diversity of grass heights. While we often think of grass as something we mow, grasses span an incredible range from the tiniest species, barely 2 centimeters tall, to bamboo giants exceeding 30 meters. This represents one of the widest size ranges in any plant family. The smallest grasses have adapted to harsh alpine and Arctic environments, where staying low protects them from devastating winds and maximizes heat absorption from the ground. These diminutive species may take years to reach maturity, investing most of their energy into developing extensive root systems that anchor them in thin, rocky soils. Meanwhile, the tallest bamboos achieve their spectacular heights through that unique cell inflation strategy we discussed earlier, essentially hydraulically pumping themselves skyward in a matter of weeks. The role of grasses in shaping animal evolution cannot be overstated. When grasslands began expanding during the Miocene epoch, roughly 23 million years ago, they created entirely new ecological opportunities. Herbivorous mammals responded by evolving longer legs for running across the open plains, where they could no longer rely on forest cover for protection from predators. Their teeth changed dramatically, developing high crowns and complex enamel patterns to cope with the abrasive silica in grass. Their digestive systems became more sophisticated, with many lineages evolving multi-chambered stomachs or greatly elongated intestines to extract nutrients from tough, fibrous grass. In essence, grasses drove a revolution in mammalian evolution, selecting for entirely new body forms and physiological capabilities. Without grasses, we would not have horses, bison, antelope, zebras, kangaroos, or any of the other grazing specialists that populate our planet today. The relationship between grasses and humans extends beyond agriculture into the realm of medicine and health. While we primarily think of grasses as food sources, various grass species have been used medicinally for thousands of years across different cultures. Certain grass species contain compounds that show promise in modern pharmaceutical research. Though it is important to note that most grasses have been relatively little studied for their medicinal properties compared to flowering plants. The practice of eating grass, particularly wheatgrass and barleygrass, has gained popularity in modern wellness circles, though scientific evidence for many claimed health benefits remains limited and requires further research. What is well established is the nutritional value of cereal grains, which provide not just calories but also important B vitamins, minerals, and when consumed as whole grains, significant amounts of fiber that support digestive health. Grass has even influenced human language in ways we rarely consider. Phrases like, "The grass is always greener on the other side," "Don't let the grass grow under your feet," "Putting out to pasture," and "Snake in the grass," all derive from our long relationship with grasslands and cultivated grass. These expressions reveal how deeply grass has penetrated human consciousness, serving as a metaphor for opportunity, neglect, retirement, and hidden danger. The word grassroots, referring to the common people or the foundation of a movement, draws on the image of grass as ubiquitous, fundamental, and arising from the ground up rather than imposed from above. Even our concept of greener pastures as a metaphor for better opportunities elsewhere stems from the pastoral lifestyle that grass made possible. The aesthetic and psychological value of grass should not be overlooked either. Studies have shown that views of green spaces, including grasslands and lawns, can reduce stress, improve mood, and even accelerate healing in hospital patients. The color green itself, which we associate strongly with grass, has been found to have calming effects on the human nervous system. This may partly explain why humans across cultures have consistently valued green spaces and have gone to considerable effort to create and maintain lawns and parks, even when these serve no practical agricultural purpose. Our affinity for grass and grasslands may have deep evolutionary roots, potentially stemming from our species' origins in the East African savanna, where the presence of green grass signaled water availability and abundant game animals. While such evolutionary psychology hypotheses remain speculative and difficult to prove definitively, the universal human appreciation for green grassy spaces suggests some innate response to these landscapes. Grasses also play surprising roles in modern technology and industry. Beyond the obvious uses in food and construction, grasses contribute to countless products we encounter daily. The silica extracted from rice hulls finds use in everything from toothpaste to concrete additives. Grass fibers are being explored as reinforcement materials in biodegradable plastics, potentially offering more sustainable alternatives to petroleum-based polymers. Some grass species are being investigated as sources of enzymes for industrial processes, while others show promise as bioremediators, capable of absorbing heavy metals and other pollutants from contaminated soils. The cellulose in grass, particularly abundant in species like switchgrass, is being studied intensively as a potential feedstock for second-generation biofuels that would not compete with food crops the way corn ethanol does. These emerging applications suggest that our relationship with grasses will continue evolving as we seek sustainable solutions to modern challenges. The cultural practices surrounding grass vary dramatically across different societies, reflecting local environmental conditions, historical traditions, and social values. In England and much of the United States, the closely mowed lawn has become a powerful symbol of respectability and middle-class status, to the point where homeowners face social pressure and sometimes even legal requirements to maintain their lawns at certain standards. Yet this aesthetic preference is culturally specific and relatively recent in human history. In other parts of the world, the idea of dedicating significant land area to a monoculture of non-native grass that requires constant mowing, watering, and chemical inputs would be seen as wasteful or incomprehensible. Some communities are now questioning lawn culture and exploring alternatives like native plant gardens, clover lawns, or moss yards that require less maintenance and provide more ecological benefits. This evolving relationship with domestic grass reflects broader cultural shifts regarding environmental sustainability and the human role in shaping landscapes. Grasses continue to surprise researchers with newly discovered capabilities and characteristics. Recent studies have revealed that some grasses can communicate with each other through underground fungal networks, sharing nutrients and possibly even warning signals about herbivore attacks or environmental stresses. While this research is still in early stages and the mechanisms remain incompletely understood, it suggests that grasslands may be far more interconnected and dynamic than previously recognized. Other research has found that certain grass species can rapidly evolve tolerance to environmental stresses like heavy metals in contaminated soils, with adaptation occurring within just a few generations, demonstrating the evolutionary flexibility that has made grasses so successful across such varied environments. As our tools for studying plants at molecular and ecosystem levels continue to improve, we will likely discover even more remarkable aspects of grass biology and ecology that challenge our assumptions about these seemingly simple plants. The future of grasses in a changing climate remains a subject of active research and some uncertainty. Climate models generally predict that grasslands will experience significant changes in distribution and character as temperatures rise and precipitation patterns shift. Some grasslands may expand as warming temperatures make currently cooler regions more suitable for grass growth, while others may contract or transform as changing rainfall patterns push them toward desert conditions. The relative balance between C3A and C4 grasses will likely shift, with C4 grasses potentially expanding their range as temperatures increase, given their superior performance in hot conditions. However, many other factors complicate these predictions, including changes in fire regimes, grazing patterns, atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations, and human land use. Rising carbon dioxide levels might favor C3 grasses, which can more effectively use extra carbon dioxide than C4 grasses, potentially partially offsetting the temperature advantage of C4 species. The complex interactions among all these factors make predicting grassland futures challenging, though scientists generally agree that significant changes are likely in the coming decades and centuries. As we draw toward the end of this exploration, it is worth pausing to consider how grass exemplifies the power of adaptation, the importance of seemingly humble organisms, and the deep interconnections that bind living systems together. Grass does not capture our attention with flashy flowers or towering heights, though bamboos certainly challenge that generalization. Grass does not produce aromatic scents or brightly colored fruits to attract our notice. Yet grass, through its quiet persistence and remarkable adaptations, has conquered nearly half the land surface of our planet and made possible the civilization we inhabit. The next time you walk across a lawn, observe grass waving in a prairie wind, or consume any product derived from cereal grains, take a moment to appreciate the deep history, the intricate biology, and the profound ecological significance of this plant. Family. Grass has been shaped by fire, by the teeth and hooves of countless grazing animals, by drought and flood, by ice ages and warm periods over more than 100 million years of evolution. It has responded to these pressures by developing some of the most elegant solutions in the plant kingdom: growth from the base, extensive root systems, rapid reproduction, and the ability to form stable, carbon-storing ecosystems that support extraordinary biological diversity. Grasses remind us that importance does not always correlate with showiness, that the foundations of complex systems are often composed of seemingly simple elements, and that the most successful organisms are often those that can persist, adapt, and recover in the face of continuous disturbance. They teach us about resilience, about the power of community, for grasses rarely succeed as individuals, but rather as components of grassland ecosystems, and about the long-term consequences of evolutionary relationships between plants and animals. In our current era of rapid environmental change, understanding and appreciating grasses becomes more important than ever. As we work to feed a growing global population, mitigate climate change through carbon sequestration, restore degraded ecosystems, and develop more sustainable agricultural practices, grasses will undoubtedly play central roles. The better we understand these plants, their biology, their ecology, and their evolutionary history, the better equipped we will be to make informed decisions about managing grasslands, breeding improved crop varieties, and maintaining the essential ecological services that grasses provide.